Good morning, good morning, good morning, my friends. I'm so glad you guys are all here. Diana was the first one in, 6:30 this morning. She said, I have been waiting for this update. She's heavily followed this case, as have all of you. I receive messages frequently asking if there's any updates in certain cases. And this is definitely one that is always on our minds. So today we're going to have a long overdue conversation with Justin, and he has his cousin Tiffany with him. And Justin has been a warrior for his daughter. I don't mean any just bullshit on the internet. He is dealing with state legislators to make sure this never happens again. So we have 73 people in here. I have a feeling it's going to be a small crowd today, not because the case isn't extremely important, but because, as you know, they caught old Danilo. A canine found him under some brush. So that's what's got the YouTube streets a-buzzing. It's going crazy. I know a lot of people reached out and they said, are you going to cover the manhunt? Are you going to cover the manhunt? The reason I did not, I'm going to be honest with you guys because we're all friends here. His ass shouldn't have been here in the first place. As of right now, this manhunt, and this will be passed on to all of us, don't you worry, has cost almost $5 million. I'm glad those dogs tuned him up. If I was them, I wouldn't have called him off. Bonafide said, amen, Brooks. Amen. Shouldn't have been here. He was already wanted for murder in Brazil. Already wanted. The hell's he doing here? And if I was that governor, I'd sue the federal government. But we know that won't happen. It's a little too messy for those politicians. But that's all right. They found him. And like I said, I would let the dogs finish him off. It would have looked like that show Django. Mama Kay said, yep, I would have thought, oh goodness, those dogs caught a rabbit. Yep, DT Driver's in here. Hello, Tiffany. Pat K's in. Chloe. Bama Cat. Glenn made it back in. Dolores is in the house. Angel P. So glad you guys are here, and you know what today is. You know what it is. So get ready.
Oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Woo-hoo!
Almost a Friday, my friends, almost a Friday, and it has finally cooled off in Oklahoma. I saw on my phone this morning it was 62 degrees, and I was like, oh, damn. But I don't wear socks. That's never going to happen. Never, never. Good morning, Katie Montgomery. Good morning. If anybody can put the link in here for if anybody wants to join the members, we have a big members show coming up. So let's get to it. I was super proud last night when I saw this on my local news. I live outside of Tulsa. And again, Justin has been such a warrior for Ivy. This should have never happened. Jesse should have never been out of jail. And as you guys remember, when we were talking so much about this in May and June, we had people come in and all the time going, what about Holly? You forget about Holly. Holly's a victim too. Hell, she is. She knew what he was. She knew what he was. She encouraged it. She facilitated it. These are the victims. Brittany Brewer, Ivy Webster, Tiffany Guess, Michael Mayo, and Riley Allen. The police in Henryetta and Okmulgee basically treated this like, well, it's a murder-suicide, there's nothing else to do. But then other evidence was found in the house that was never processed, and the OSBI had to get involved. Why they weren't there on day one, I don't know. Justin will have to explain that to us, but after going through the house, they found things like this. Yeah, imagine going to your local Ace Hardware and picking up this stuff. Gotta be kidding me. I shared this to our community tab and on Facebook. I was doing a show that morning and this came across my phone. Missing, endangered. It said emergency alert extreme. And I said to all of you guys, there is something really, really wrong here because in Oklahoma, we don't see this. We don't see emergency alert extreme. We don't see that. It's extremely rare. And this is a case that cannot go away. It is way too important. Let's look at this, and then we're going to bring up some very, very special guests.
Thanks for joining us tonight at 6. I'm Naomi Kitt. Karen is off tonight. First at 6, a family of a teen girl killed by a convicted rapist is pushing for stricter laws for sex offenders here in Oklahoma and across the country. Investigators say Jesse McFadden killed his wife, her 3 children, and 2 of their teen friends before committing suicide. I talked with one of the teen's family and a state lawmaker about what can be done to make sure this doesn't happen again. The class of 2027, 14-year-old Ivy Webster's graduation year.
She just had this love and joy.
Her 8th grade picture, a yearly tradition, shows her favorite things and hopes and dreams for what should have been her start to high school. The board and shirt sit empty.
She was an angel on earth. She was the nicest person to everybody.
Ivy's dad, Justin Webster, and cousin Tiffany Troy don't want any other family to feel the pain they've been dealing with since Ivy was killed.
This petition is going to save some lives for sure.
The family has collected more than 3,200 signatures to push their Knight's Law through the Oklahoma legislature. They have 13 requests to close loopholes they say led to Ivy's death.
And there's a lot of laws that we have asked for that would have prevented this from happening.
In May, we told you investigators say convicted rapist Jesse McFadden killed his wife, Holly Guess, her 3 children, Riley Allen, Michael Mayo, and Tiffany Guess, and 2 of Tiffany's friends, Brittany Brewer and Ivy. McFadden was due back in court for other child sex crimes when they were all found dead.
These monsters need to be locked up for life. They cannot be reformed.
The family's top priority is a law that requires any person convicted of a sex crime against a child to serve life without parole.
I think the legislative body in any state should do everything that they can to make sure that children especially, but really all citizens, should be protected from these types of crimes.
District 16 Representative Scott Fedgetter has been working with the family to help craft bills that can be heard during the next legislative session.
This is something that actually definitely protects kids. And that's what we should be doing. That's where we should be focusing our attention.
They want Oklahoma to be in compliance with Megan's law, requiring state and national sex offender registries to align. They want a mandatory notice to everyone within 5 miles of a sex offender's home and job, and mandatory background checks on all marriage applications, barring convicted sex offenders from living with a potential spouse's children.
We can't be losing any more kids and to monsters that should have already been locked up. So it's time to
with a potential spouse's.
Okay, this is so important. It is so important. Please, please, please share this, because for one, you don't need to be dating at the jail, Holly. When old boy got out of jail, she was already visiting him in jail. She had him around her own children.
We can't be losing any more kids and to monsters that should have already been locked up. So it's time to fix that.
As Justin walked me through his home.
This is at the Science Museum in Oklahoma City. We used to love to go to that.
Showing memories of his little girl.
This is her when she was little, baking cakes and stuff. And
he wants to make sure Oklahoma children are protected.
I feel confident that this push of what we're doing is coming from her as she stands next to Jesus in heaven, fighting this battle with us.
And yes, it needs to be nationwide. Florida gets it. Florida gets it. They're like, they can't be reformed. They can't be reformed. Kill them. There's a hotter room in hell for anyone that hurts a child. Without further ado, I'm going to bring up Justin and Tiffany. We're going to talk about the petition. You guys know that I never push petitions down your throat or anything and say, sign this, sign this, sign this. This affects all of us, though. So I really highly encourage you guys to sign it, share it, work friends, church friends, family. So again, without further ado, let's bring up Justin and Tiffany. Good morning, Justin. Good morning, Tiffany. And thank you so much for being here and the tireless work you have been doing to prevent this from happening to any other children.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having us.
So let's get to it. Let's start with the petition. Hang on one second. I want to put it on the screen. There's the victims. 3,438 signatures. Why this petition matters. Approximately 93% of all sex crime victims in the U.S. are minor children under the age of 18. It says, you see, my 14-year-old cousin and her friends were horrifically taken from us by a predator. These were not small charges, mind you. We're talking about solicitation of a minor and possession of child porn, all of which took place while he was supposedly under the care of the state. Let's talk about that.
Okay, so we do have some of the records from when McFadden was in prison, and he has multiple charges. I'm sure you saw on some of the news stations just the surface details of them, but he raped a couple inmates. There's 2 different infractions of him raping other inmates. There's also a contraband phone that he had been communicating with someone from outside of the prison, but I don't necessarily know or believe that that person was a minor. There's no indication of that in the records, but the records that were provided by the Department of Corrections are slightly incomplete. So there may be more details behind that. There was then also a second contraband phone that most people know about. That one was used in the solicitation of a minor, and then also possession of child porn. So she was exchanging with that minor while he was in jail. He was also teaching her how to use the dark web, a minor child, while he was in jail, using that contraband phone. So interestingly enough, the state had him in their custody. They found the contraband phone, they found what was on the contraband phone, and instead of holding him without bond, they chose to release him early on good behavior. And what I also found interesting was that he was earning the max amount of credits while he was in jail. For most of the time that he was in there, when he was found with that second contraband phone, he ended up going in the shoe, and he was um, earning lower credits for a very, very short period of time, just a couple months or so. And then other than that, he went right back up to earning the full credits to be released early on the 85% law that's currently in place in Oklahoma.
And the 85% law should never be for sex offenders. Part of his good behavior, because we covered it very heavily on this channel, was hygiene. So because he washed his ass with that little sliver of soap they gave him, he got credit for hygiene.
He sure did.
Yeah. We're
So
gonna. It's a little bit early for me, at least I can speak for myself. So it'll be better maybe if you ask us questions, because
oh sure.
my brain not fully functioning yet. I apologize, but I'm trying.
I usually work evenings, so morning.
No, you're fine. Thank you for being here.
We got to get our brains going a little bit, especially with everything we've been.
It's a lot to hit you with. It's a lot to hit you with. I know, and I feel bad. You even having to relive any of this. And I'm going to post the petition again. The Facebook group Crime Lines and Lies, our Oklahoma group in Discord. Please grab the link and share it. I don't care if you live in Timbuktu. The more signatures, the better.
And I'm gonna build off that, if you don't mind. What we keep telling everybody is, yeah, we created this petition, but this petition really is for everybody. If you got kids, you got grandkids, if you feel touched by this story, grab a hold of that petition, get 10 people a day to sign it. This is something that should have been done hundreds of years ago. It's 2023. There's no reason why we shouldn't have a federal law that covers pedophilia and protects our kids. So now's the time to do that. We have the motivation. We got movies coming out about it. We got songs coming out about it. It's time. It's time to push this law, and let's get it enacted in the country. So yes, I am going to push this petition, and I hope you continue to push the petition, because this is the one that will actually change the face of our country. It's time to save our kids. Grab that petition, sign it, and get as many people as you can to sign it. Let's let our government know we're serious.
We are serious. And even if it's one state at a time, because we know that the government works slow. It works very slow.
We will be there to help you along the way. We're learning through experience. And as we gain this experience, we'll be able to share what we're doing. And we hope that people will start doing what we're doing here at other places.
Yeah, and we do have on Facebook the Knight's Law 2.0 group, and that group does post updates on what's going on with the case. It also has links to information like documents, Word documents that you can download to print off and give out to local communities in any state, not just Oklahoma, but in any state that has the petition on there and the laws in there, the QR code and way to scan and sign the petition. that they can print out. It's 4 or 5 pages long, and just hand that around in the neighborhood, like businesses. And we've seen a lot of people sign up that way as well and become more aware that way.
Well, I just hit the refresh on your petition, and you've got 20 more. You just got 20 more signatures in the last 20 minutes.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you.
And that's
Yeah,
how
like I keep saying, this is your petition. Take it and use it as if your own kids are in danger, because you know what? They are.
They are. They are. Because don't think that the sex registry is always up to date. And I'm not talking about Christie's toy box or what you see on the internet. I'm talking about the one that tells you when you're in danger.
Yeah, and that's one of our laws as well, is compliance with what's called the Megan's Law. Megan's Law, in essence, says that the state sex offender registry needs to align with the national registry. Right now, Oklahoma is one of many, many states that is not compliant with that. So if you go on the Oklahoma registry and look up a 5-mile radius from your house, you might find 5 predators. If you go on the national registry and look up 5-mile radius from your house, you might find 15 sex offenders. So if that's the case, then you're not really aware. Most parents are going to the state registry. They don't know to go to the national registry. So anyone watching this, I would highly recommend. The national registry is more updated than the state registries right now in many, many states across the United States. So go on the national registry and check out. You can type in your address and look in the radius of your house too.
And in Florida, it started with a petition. I don't want to cross cases, but it started with a petition, and it got to their state legislature that not only said we have to beef up the registry, but these people are going to die.
Abuse is without a doubt one of the most heinous and insidious crimes an individual could ever commit, and which a victim could ever suffer. These offenses go much deeper than the physical harm done to our children. Most often, this is not a one-and-done crime, where the victim suffers a horrible experience, never again to be repeated. Once a predator has a child ensnared, they will harm that child over and over and over again, and then move on to another innocent child. Members, they're called predators for a reason, because they stalk and hunt down their prey, systematically grooming their intended victims using a series of calculated moves to gain their trust, get them alone, and break down their boundaries.
And that is what happens. And they use other children to do it, and there's no changing them. Now, there are a few states, and I don't really want to get into politics right now, but they are saying that pedophilia is a mental illness. They say just like there are some men that are attracted to men, some women are only attracted to women. There are people that are attracted to children. Miss me with that shit. I don't want to hear it. Children are not for sale. Do you have any thoughts on that, Tiffany or Justin?
We agree, and I love that saying. I really do, and it hits the nail on the head for sex trafficking for sure. But we got to start tackling the root cause of the problem, and that is pedophilia. If we knock out pedophilia and that generational turn and the loopholes and the open door policy to pedophilia in our country, which we're doing, that's going to slow down the sex trafficking, and it's going to quell those stats that are actually quite frightening, which I hope during this podcast we might be able to spit out some of those stats that will scare some of your viewers into really signing that petition for sure.
Oh, 100%. And it's trust me, you're going to have a lot of signatures today. A lot of signatures. Nana Banana said, looking at my sleeping granddaughter beside me, and I'm proud to sign it. Snow said, I heard that you're trying to categorize them with the LGQB community. Yes, they are. NC Mountain Girl said, that is BS. Pedos cannot be rehabilitated. They cannot. Toika said he, like the devil, roams the earth, like a devil seeking whom he may devour. 1 Peter 5:8. So we're going to go to the beginning. This was on my local news, KOTV. This is the day that I heard for myself what happened basically less than an hour south of me. And again, Justin, if you need to take a break, because I don't want you to have to relive all of this. This is your baby girl.
Okay. Let's move forward.
On that breaking news, as investigators find 7 people dead on a property in Okmulgee County, including 2 teenage girls who have been reported missing by their families. Thanks for joining us. I'm Lori Fulbright.
And I'm Craig Day. 14-year-old Ivy Webster and 16-year-old Brittany Brewer were last seen with Jesse McFadden's family. His body was also found in a rural area east of Henryetta. McFadden was a registered sex offender. We have team coverage this evening, starting with News on 6's Emery Bryan, who joins us live in Henryetta. Emery.
And we're just outside the suspect's property here, just to the east of Henryetta and just to the north of I-40. In fact, it's within sight just here on the other side of this property, where this afternoon the sheriff told us that his investigators had made the discovery of 7 bodies here. And this had started as a missing persons report of a teenager over the weekend, turned into an Amber Alert this morning as alarms were raised about who that teen and another teen would be with. That would be Jesse McFadden, 39 years old, who lived here on this property. And then once investigators got here to the scene of his house this afternoon, executed a search warrant, they went onto the property and found 7 bodies believed to be, pending medical examiner notification, the 2 teenagers, Ivy Webster, 14, and Brittany Brewer, 16, Jesse and Holly McFadden, his wife, and then possibly his 3 children, though the sheriff here said the investigation is just getting started. He wanted to reiterate, though they are certain there is no future threat to the public, and they certainly believe what they have here is all of this family. He wanted to be careful of just about confirmation.
We're not going to discuss any of the facts of the case or anything like that, but we are no longer looking. We believe to have found everything that we were seeking this morning. Our hearts go out to the families and friends, schoolmates, and everyone else, and it's just a tragedy in Okmulgee County.
And that is the sheriff talking just a few minutes ago about the discovery of 7 bodies on this rural property here. Investigators are still out there on the scene. The medical examiner has several trucks out on the property where they are processing evidence to determine exactly what happened. I asked the sheriff if he had any idea of what might have led to this, and he said he didn't, but they hope to investigate and find out. They do know that there was a court hearing scheduled in Muskogee this morning that obviously Jesse McFadden did not make it to. He also would not comment on how long these bodies have been here, as this investigation is just getting started. Reporting.
Still shakes me to my core. Now, we went through all of the court records from ODCR on here. I don't need to go through them again. You guys can find it if you want to look at it. What led you, Justin, to put in a missing persons report for your daughter?
Well, that scenario, I guess it would be better to just kind of explain it from the beginning. So Saturday morning, it was about 10:22, I believe. Ivy was already planning on going to hang out with Tiffany because they talked about it the days before about going shopping at the mall because her birthday party was the weekend before, and they just wanted to get out and have some fun. And so our family was going up to Tulsa anyways to hang out and have a good time, and Ivy wanted to hang out with Tiffany, so they got picked up at the house. They went up to Tulsa too, and they were supposed to go to the mall, which I know they went to the mall. Ivy bought something at a store, and we were able to track that. And then they were going to, no, before that, it was the trampoline place, Urban Air, I believe it's called. and they walked in
In Tulsa or McAllister?
In Tulsa.
Okay.
So of course, well, let me go on with the story. I'll cover all that. So Urban Air was packed, and they ended up going to Main Event, which we later got video of, and we saw her walking into Main Event with Brittany, Tiffany, and Jesse, and that was all that was with them. And then Saturday night came along. We knew she was staying the night there. We allowed that, as we've done before. As I've said before in many interviews, Tiffany and Ivy always hung out with each other. Either Tiffany stayed the night here or Ivy stayed the night there. Michael stayed the night here sometimes, and our oldest son would go hang out with Michael. They were best friends too. And then Parker even dated Riley for a little bit. So it's trying to get people to understand that we lost all those kids, not just Ivy. They were all part of our family. But going back to that, so we know they were at the house, and my wife and daughter were Snapchat texting and sending snaps to each other till about 10 o'clock. And then my wife woke up and at around midnight took a picture of our dog, because Ivy loves her dog, and sent it to her. And then Ivy responded with oh, it's late, Mom, you need to go to bed. So Ashley went to bed, and then woke up to a text early in the morning from Ivy's phone. And at this point, we now feel and believe, obviously there was no time of death on the death certificate or anything, but we believe she was already passed away at that point, and Jesse was using Ivy's phone and texted Ashley saying that they were going out to McAllister to the ranch to hang out and swim as Jesse worked. And that is something that's been done before. They'd always go to the ranch, hang out, go swim on the ranch, and have a good time. So we didn't really think anything of it. And Ashley just told Ivy that she had to be back by 5. And she said, okay. So the whole day kind of went on, and I think I worked that day. I think it was like 4 something. I know I was supposed to get off at 12:30 at night. So that night kept going on, and about 5 o'clock, my wife received a call from Jesse McFadden himself from his phone, which she's never called my wife before. But my wife didn't, once again, think anything of it because of the explanation she got from Jesse. Jesse was stating that his truck got stuck near the creek, and he had to walk all the way out to an open area on the ranch to be able to make a phone call. And the reception was already bad, from what my wife was saying, and she could barely hear him. And then it just basically got disconnected. But in that conversation, Jesse said they were running late. It's going to be a while. They'll call with updates if they can, but they're going to try to get the truck out, and then Ivy would be home. It was about between 9 and 10. I got a call again from my wife freaking out, saying that Ivy's still not home. And I tried to calm her down and tell her everything's going to be okay. But if she's not home by midnight, then we need to call the sheriff's office to come and do a missing persons report. And, I kept trying to give her different scenarios to kind of ease her mind and tell her, hey, they're probably just stuck. Maybe they just can't get it out. Maybe they're trying to get a tractor, anything that will help not have to pay for a tow truck. So I was trying to come up with different scenarios, and I told her to just go to sleep, and she'll probably just come home or call or text at some point when they get free. Well, it was about midnight, and I was getting ready to come home from work. I called my wife I think it was a little before midnight, and I told her, I said, "Hey, is Ivy home?" And she had fallen asleep, and I woke her up with that call, and she said she didn't know. So I told her, go get up, go check out the room, make sure she's home. And at that point, she searched the whole house, and she still wasn't home, and she was freaking out. So I told her I'm gonna rush home, which I drove about 100 miles an hour home to get home. I wasn't going to wait any longer. My wife had already called the sheriff's office at that point. I think she made the call at about 12:12. And I told her I would drive by McFadden's property to see if I can see the truck there. And maybe they went there and it was too late and they didn't want to bother us. And I don't know. I was trying to come up with so many different scenarios in my head, but finally made it back to Henryetta. I drove by the house, did not see the truck. The gate was closed, so I didn't even attempt to go on the property. I just turned around and went straight home. And we waited for the sheriff's deputy to show up. And finally, times are really rough on me, but I know we waited a long time. And I want to say it was around 3 a.m. A sheriff's deputy from Okmulgee County finally showed up. Deputy Fromm, F-R-O-M-M, I believe. And he began to take the missing persons report, got all our information, and went back to the sheriff's office. And it was about every hour from after he left till about 8 o'clock, I was calling to try to get an update to see if they found her. Me and my wife stayed in the living room, trying to wait to see if she'd just show up. And sun started rising, and we started trying to think of what we could do. So we thought maybe we should ask the bus driver when he comes by to see if maybe Michael's on the bus, or maybe if he saw something down there, or if they picked up any of the kids. And the bus driver, Mike, showed up. I asked him. He said, no, none of the kids were out there. And that's when I told him, well, all the kids are missing. We don't know where the family is, where our daughter is. And at around that same time, we got a call from Nathan Brewer saying, hey, I saw your Facebook post that your daughter's missing. Our daughter was over there too, and she's missing. And they just did their missing persons report that morning. And we kind of teamed up, and I told Nathan, just come over our house. We'll kind of use our house as the hub since we're right down the street. And if PD wants to communicate with us, at least we'll both be at the house and they can communicate with both of us. So that's what we did. And from that point, the missing and endangered alert went out, and we got our very first sight of Jesse McFadden and his mugshot. And that's when family members and friends started sending us his rap sheet and who he was. And it just started to sink in a little bit there of who Jesse was and what may have happened to our daughter. There was a lot of hope that maybe he was just holding her hostage or anything. And obviously, as that day played out, we know what happened.
It's absolutely gut-wrenching. I watched it unfold on my TV. I got the endangered alert, I think, between like 9:30 or 10 that morning, but I can't say for sure exactly what time. Extra AF has a comment, and I understand if you can't say anything about it. She said, with all due respect to Justin and Tiffany, but I'm still not trusting the local law enforcement.
We could understand.
Yeah, we could definitely understand. Just keep digging.
Yeah.
Well, the Okmulgee Henryetta area has had problems for a very, very long time.
Just keep digging.
And I can do a whole show about it, but I don't live too far from there, and I don't want to.
Well, you still should.
I am.
Just keep digging. Sorry.
Because everything that I have dug up is pretty damn disturbing. And the fact that they wanted this sewed up and done. Jesse was only checked on one time.
Yeah, and I'm sure you did an episode on that, but interestingly enough, the Okmulgee Sheriff's Department, the administration assistant, yes, that Melissa Smalley's the admin assistant at the Okmulgee Sheriff's Department. Her LinkedIn account says that she is in charge of the sex offender registry
for Okmulgee County.
For Okmulgee County, where Jesse McFadden lived. So it's interesting that she is also the one who signed as a witness on the marriage license when they got married. She's also the one that arranged for her son, who's a deputy at that sheriff's department, to go do that one and only at-home check less than a month after that marriage was completed. Also interesting about that marriage is that the chaplain came from one of the jails that Jesse was at. There's no indication that they necessarily knew each other, but what I find interesting is that chaplain, when he finally did come out and talk to the media, he said that this was the one and only time that he was ever called and asked to officiate at that particular courthouse. So I'm very curious as to who called him and what day that call was made to him to come and officiate. Because for that to be the one and only time in his entire career, it's just a little bit alarming.
Coincidentally speaking, everything lines up too perfectly for, yeah. Put the puzzle pieces together yourself.
Well, not to mention Jesse's mother. She's got some connections. Okay. His brother should never be let out of jail. Holly's mother has connections to the Branch Davidian cult in Waco, Texas. I've got a folder on this that looks like a Tokyo phone book.
Yeah.
And it's going on right around us.
Yeah.
And Governor Kevin Stitt should have demanded that Okmulgee Sheriff's Department, Henryetta Police be cleaned out.
And should still.
Let's look at this clip, and we're going to let Justin and Tiffany regroup a little bit because this is their life and it's very hard on them. Now, this is the same law enforcement that when the 4 men were killed for trying to steal catalytic converters from old Crazy Joe in Okmulgee, he got on there and just said, "We found body parts in the river," and didn't really want to do anything more. Now, my question was, when I was watching this live on Facebook and I got blocked really quick, have you checked for any sexual assault on any of them, knowing Jesse's record? And I'm sorry to say that in front of you, Justin.
No, that's okay. And, we wonder the same things. There were several things missed during that investigation. And one that baffles me the most is, we walked through that whole house and there was edibles, THC, marijuana all over the house, syringes with oils in it. And on the autopsies, they failed to test for THC. And I just don't understand. And the fact that they left all that stuff there and then gave me the approval to walk through that house and see exactly what my daughter went through is absolutely just disrespectful. But yeah.
Well, they tried to clean this up as some sort of simple murder-suicide, but there's no such thing. And then we see these things.
And ask me, what can we do? Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that? Is Justin okay?
Yeah, he's just grabbing a charger for his phone really quick. But definitely do have thoughts on that.
On the staging of the scene.
Yeah, well, I find many things interesting when it came to the handling of the case. So with the fact that Joe Prentice is telling us that the scene was staged, but yet he is closing the investigation in less than 24 hours, saying that they found their autopsy reports. And if you look at the style of shooting on the autopsy reports, 2 of the victims were shot with a gun to their head. The rest of the victims were shot multiple times from a distance, which is very interesting. I think from the law enforcement perspective, they should have been looking at those kind of factors and considering the possibility that there was more than one shooter. They should have been, if they knew the bodies were staged like they said, why did they not go and figure out where the murders actually took place? Why did they not call and get a search warrant right when they found the bodies to go dive into the house for more details? They had a search warrant for the house to find the bodies, but they should have gotten a search warrant to go through and take everything out of the house, because knowing that Jesse killed himself the day that he was going to be convicted or start his trial for child porn, why did they not take his computer? Why did they go into the house and only take Michael's computer, a computer out of a kid's bedroom that was obviously not going to have that type of information on it, and leave the ones behind that did?
Well, not only that, you come out and you tell us that my daughter was sexually assaulted, Brittany as well, and we know based off what we saw in that house that most of the crimes most likely happened in that house. And to tell us that after you find the bodies that there's nothing else to investigate, that house is a treasure trove of illegal activity and crimes that needed to be investigated. And when Detective Dawson had the nerve to tell me, what are you trying to get out of this? He's dead. There's no story to be told. There is, and we need those answers. And if they want to send out an extreme endangered and missing because of how dangerous he was with kids in his possession, then why would they not want to investigate that house, especially seeing all the electronics there, to see if there's other possible victims? And it's just trying to get these law enforcement to do their job. And I don't know what it is here in Oklahoma. They don't care to. And it almost gives you that sense of feeling as if they condone it. They allow it to happen.
I think they were covering their own asses. There's another case from Oklahoma we've been covering a lot. We have a show coming up in a few weeks. I have to wait on a few things. Alana Raffield, who was murdered in her garage, and police said it was suicide. And now with the civil suit going out, a whole new can of worms has been opened, and one deputy had to go to the oil fields, quit his job because he was on to what happened. And in this case, they just wanted to seal it up. They already knew that they were supposed to be tracking Jesse McFadden, and they weren't.
Mm-hmm.
They knew it.
So one of our deputies that investigated it quit, or is this for another case?
Oh, no, this is in Prague, Oklahoma. You mean the Alana Raffield case?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I'm hoping I'll stay quiet.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm okay right now.
Okay. Because the truth matters. And when Joe Prentice said it was a staged crime scene and explained where the bodies were and everything, I thought, well, did they figure out who drug who?
Well, not only that, there's no, I've walked, I was standing supposedly, from what Deputy Smokey Patchen told me, right where the bodies were. And I've walked a lot of that grass out there. I was inside of that house. Was not a drop of blood anywhere to be found. Nowhere to be found in the house. The only thing that we saw with blood on it was a baby wipe that was left on the living room floor with dried blood on it, right next to the mattress that was left on the living room floor. Who puts a mattress in their living room floor? And that was left there. Why would they not collect that?
Yeah, were they not looking for DNA and to find out exactly what happened? And do we know
They
that
did
Jesse?
none of that. They did no gunpowder residue on Jesse's hands. They did nothing.
They didn't do gunpowder residue on any of the bodies. They bagged the hands at the scene like they were supposed to, but none of them tested for gunpowder residue. They didn't do a complete autopsy on Jesse McFadden. They just labeled him as a suicide, again, without doing gunshot residue on his hands.
No full spectrum drug test.
Yeah, they also have the geographical coordinates of where the bodies were found, and that they don't match completely with what was released by Joe Prentice at that press conference. So, and with a head injury, typically that's bleeds a whole lot. So to not have any blood in those locations where they said they found the bodies doesn't make sense for them to not go further and try to figure out where those bodies were
And
killed.
to explain in detail as they did to me and what is on those autopsy reports, there's absolutely no way that there can't be blood not there.
Well, I did a show May, early June. I had my own theory about it, and it really is the sickness that is Jesse and Holly. I don't think for a minute that Holly was ambushed by him. I think that she knew that court was coming up and that he was going to go back to jail, and they went down in a blaze of glory. She knew exactly they were going to hell together.
That's one theory.
And we had one of his victims on the show. I believe it was Mother's Day, actually. And she was not even told that he was being released.
Yeah, and that's one of the laws that we actually have in the petitions. A lot of the laws that we have in there are accountability laws that we're just asking them to do what they're already supposed to be doing. So one is that we're asking, because you're talking about Crystal Strong not being notified when Jesse McFadden got out. She had in Oklahoma, they require you to opt in to be told whether or not the prisoner is moving jails when they're released. Crystal opted in, and not only did she opt in, but they weren't updating her when he was moving prisons. She was continually having to call and figure that out for herself. And then she didn't know when he was released. So we asked for the state, one of the laws for the state to be held fully accountable when they fail to notify prior victims of their predator's release, because that is definitely a liability on the state, and a victim should never have to go through that. You shouldn't have to go through what brutal attack Crystal went through and then turn around and be walking around driving out to Henryetta to visit family, and then you run into him at the local Walmart. That just should never happen as a victim.
Oklahoma, I feel, and it sucks to say this, but based off their laws and whatnot, they truly don't care about their people right now. Their laws just condone bad behavior, especially for some of the sickest criminals out there and pedophiles. You look at the laws here, and you look at small town governments and how they watch these pedophiles, how they track these pedophiles. There's no tracking at all. There's no monitoring. They just don't care. They condone it. And I feel, looking at the stats, Oklahoma's really average right now. They're middle of the pack, but there's states out there that are 10 times worse than us. And that's why seeing a lot of these stats and knowing what happened to us, we're really trying to come together and build teams in every state to push this Knight's Law, because what happened here is it's a tragedy, but we have to understand that this is happening all over the place. This one got a lot of publicity because we got to visually see all those loopholes that McFadden used, and that's why we wanted to draft this petition, is to close those loopholes.
Close the loopholes, exactly.
And pretty much every single one of our laws is a loophole that Jesse McFadden literally used to do what he did. If you go down that list of laws, we could probably explain how Jesse McFadden was able to take advantage of those now relaxed laws here in Oklahoma that we are trying to close up and fix and make stronger.
Well, the good behavior for a sex predator in jail should not be counted. There should not be an 85% law for a sex predator. Done and over. There's people that serve more time in jail for a bag of weed. Not just in Oklahoma, but every state. You know why? Because the state didn't get their taxes on what they're doing.
Well, and one thing that was really absolutely amazing, and Congressman Fettgetter is an amazing man, and sitting down with Senator.
Really quick, just for the people watching, this past Wednesday, what Justin's talking about, this past Wednesday, we went and met with congressmen here in the state of Oklahoma, and that was the House of Representative Scott Fettgetter, and then we also met with Senator Todd Gallagher.
That man, Senator Todd Gallagher, he is absolutely, he's like the dictionary when it comes to.
He has a ton of experience when it comes to working with pedophiles in particular. He oversaw the Northeast region sex crimes federally. So he has that national, federal level knowledge and overview and experience. So he came to the table with a whole lot that we didn't know about. And it was just a major blessing to have Scott Fettgetter pull him in to our team.
Yes.
So,
and I think having the heart and the dedication that Fettgetter has with Gallagher's experience and smarts when it comes to the stats and how these pedophiles work, and we were learning some things from him, and him working in the prison system federally and all that for as long as he did, he was telling us, murderers are murderers. They'll come up to you and tell you, hey, I killed this man, or I'm going to kill this man. But a pedophile, they groom kids, but not only do they groom and manipulate kids, they groom and manipulate adults to get themselves into the positions to attack and hurt these kids. And if they are able to manipulate and get adult minds to think the way that they need them to be able to predator on these kids, that's dangerous. You're talking about people that can change the thought process of adults to attack kids. They're more dangerous than a murderer could be, if you ask me.
What he explained to us was that sex offenders are typically very compliant people. So they will fall in line, they'll do everything that they're asked to do, and they'll do it with some sort of excellence so that they can go and fly under the radar. He explained that it's not just the adult parents that they groom with the children or at the same simultaneously with the children. They also groom parole officers. So one of the laws we're asking for is better federally mandated training for people on the front line for those parole officers to recognize this. Todd Gallagher, when he was in that position, shouldn't have to pull a parole officer aside and say, hey, you don't see that they're grooming you, you need to be checking in on this person.
They do. They're cunning. They're slick.
They're
And
the sirens of today. They are.
And a question that a lot of people have had when this happened is, how did no one know that Jesse was so dangerous? This is an interview that you did with News Nation, Justin, and you were like, we had no idea. And anytime you want me to pause this so you can talk, let me know.
To questions and anger for the parents of Ivy Webster after launching a search for their 14-year-old daughter when she failed to return home when expected. They made the awful discovery no parent ever wants to make. She had been in the company of a convicted pedophile, Jesse McFadden. Why was he out of prison is one of the questions they want answered. And joining me now are Ashley and Justin Webster, the parents of Ivy. First of all, I am so sorry to be talking to you under these circumstances. What, if anything, have police told you?
Not much.
Yeah, not much. That's been kind of part of the problem through this process, is we didn't get much of any information yesterday. I had to drive to the crime scene just to get some kind of word. And even still today, we haven't really heard much of anything, but I know a lot of it has to do with getting a medical examiner to finish their job.
They haven't told you anything about what they think might have happened on the property?
How is your wife doing? How is Ashley doing?
She's doing as best as she can as a mother. I think for the both of us, I put myself out here and I talk about it every day, and maybe it's the military, paramilitary in me. I don't know. I try to, I don't want to say make my mind numb to it, because it's constantly on my mind and doing what we're doing. I just feel, I don't know. It's really hard to explain the emotions that are going through us right now. Ashley has been very strong. Obviously, everybody grieves in their different ways, and I think she's found that the medicine for her and our advocacy. She's been trying to get out there and create these shirts and bring the awareness together and get us out there. So she's got that one thing she's latched on to, and it's given her that rejuvenation and motivation to help protect other girls. But as the mom, as the father, I know my grief is nowhere near a mother's grief to her daughter, and especially those two, because those two were the best of friends. And they did everything together.
Well, don't discount your grief or your love for your daughter. Deb has a really good question or a comment, and we spoke about this on another show. Teachers are supposed to be trained to look for signs with children. Now, it was stated that one of the McFadden kids had complained at school about what was going on with Jesse. Now, I don't know. I mean, this could just be an internet rumor, but it does make you wonder if the teachers didn't pick up on any signs from Holly's children.
Yeah, so that report that Riley had made, that wasn't to the local Henryetta school here. It was to their school just prior to this.
Okay.
But I agree, teachers do need to be trained. That's part of the laws and the mandated training for the people on the front line. Educators are 100% in that. They are mandated reporters, but they need more education of how to identify and also how to talk to a child sex crime victim, because we don't want the teacher to be re-victimizing the person or causing them more stress by the conversation, just like we don't want law enforcement to be doing that to the child. We want to make sure that the child is taken care of and their mental well-being is handled properly throughout the entire process. Once they have came forward, it's hard enough for the kid to come forward and say anything. So we need the teachers and anyone who is an adult in a position to help the child to stand up and do that the second that they are told.
Because, I mean, in all honesty, police don't, go door to door and make sure the kids are okay. CPS doesn't go door to door and make sure the kids are okay. Now, a huge ball was dropped with Jesse. One, he should have never been let out of jail. I don't care if he was eating all his food like a good boy and, practicing hygiene like he was supposed to. I don't care. I do not care. But when it comes to children, I mean, obviously, if they're from a good home, it's not a problem. But the first line of defense is the teachers, and they're with them more than the parents are, if you really want to know the truth. So it's always, bugged me and several people as to, did they not know anything? Did they not see anything? Thank you, Lone Wolf. Thank you so much for gifting all of those memberships. I'm going to let them regroup for a second. Lone Wolf is making it rain. Thank you, Lone Wolf. And I'm not blaming the teachers. I'm not blaming the police. I am blaming the Department of Corrections in Oklahoma because he should have never been let out. There's so many balls that were dropped. This man had every sign, and I'm not a professional, of being a reoffender. And I don't believe for a minute, if you guys know more than me, please let me know. But I don't believe for a minute that Holly didn't know this is all going to go down.
Yeah. There are definitely multiple signs that the state was aware that he was a predator. Can you see it? Oh, sorry, this phone is. Sorry, he's gonna get the dog. So while he was in the state's custody, clearly there were multiple signs that he was a habitual predator, and that he didn't have any preference between male or female on who he would attack. So with Jesse, it was more out of power control, and again, that habitual nature that would have been identified while he was in the state's custody. So one of the laws and that loopholes that we're trying to close is that when someone is already been convicted of a sex crime one time, that any subsequent charges that come up after that initial charge and release, that he is held without bond, so that he is not free like Jesse was roaming free. The state was already aware that he was a predator to children. He showed that to them twice. They should have held him without bond until his trial date. If they would have done that, that's one of the loopholes that could have prevented this. Another law that we have on the petition is flyers to go out when a registered sex offender moves into a new address or when they start a new occupation. They're required by law to disclose and provide that information to the National Registry. When the National Registry is updated, we believe that the community should be made aware of this predator moving into their local town. I live in Arizona. I receive those flyers. So it is something that is happening in other states. It's just not happening here, at least in Henryetta, Oklahoma. So we want to close that gap. We want those flyers to go out. If those flyers would have been sent out, everyone in town would have known who Jesse McFadden was. He wouldn't have been showing up at the school for track meets or for choir shows or anything like that. The town would have known exactly who they are. They would have been able to protect their children. In the same aspect, sending out these notices when they take up a new occupation is so important as well, because there's no laws in place that require an employer to disclose to their employees when they hire a registered sex offender. So when you see these people we now have been made aware are working at local fast food restaurants like Taco Bell or Dairy Queen, then when they're alone with customers, that's an issue. The customers and patrons around that local fast food restaurant deserve to know who their children are interacting with, especially when their children go there without their parents and late night, whenever. We just need to be more aware as a community, and the state needs to be held accountable for not making us aware, keeping us in the dark purposefully.
Have you considered any civil lawsuits, Justin? Have you and Ashley spoke about that?
Well, we'll comment on that at a later time. We want to talk about the case and the Knight's Law, and to kind of build off what Tiffany was talking about. Also, one of especially here in Henryetta, one of the biggest things that Jesse was doing, which frightens pretty much every parent, and especially knowing now that it's still going on. But Jesse McFadden was at the schools almost every single day. He would take the kids to their track events. He would sit in the stands around all these sick kids, or around all these kids, as a sick person he was. And he did it all the time. And the school had no idea. And the school doesn't have the measures to have an idea. So what we're asking for in the Knight's Law is for every school in the country to have a Raptor system. A Raptor system is a scan-based system that is put in obviously the front office or the security part of the schools, where you scan that state ID and it will immediately flag if you are a sex offender not supposed to be on school property, or violent crimes not supposed to be on school property, and you will be arrested and brought to jail. And that's another measure that if we had that already available system in our schools, Jesse would have been arrested and put away, and then the whole town would have known who he was. And what's frustrating more so is, I've had conversations with a few of the principals in our school district that kind of ask them what they would want. And, one of them has said that they would like to see fences around every public school here in Oklahoma. And for instance, like Henryetta, their elementary school play yard they have a 5-foot fence, and that's it. And anybody could just reach over, take a kid, or a kid could climb the fence and disappear. And that is actually one of the things that happened this recently. A kindergartner was able to get out of their school fence and start roaming around. And it's time for at least Oklahoma, but obviously there's a lot of small towns around in the country, and we want to protect these small towns and make sure it doesn't happen, because that's where these pedophiles are going to. They're going to small towns like this because they have more freedom and can do stuff and live a normal life. And, if we're able to lock up these schools, put a fence, and put the Raptor system in there with, like Henryetta, they just installed some facial recognition cameras. That'll definitely help. That's not 100% barrier though, because you'd always have to update pictures and make sure you're always getting a good face shot. But allowing or having everybody that enters those schools to scan their ID, teacher or not, doesn't matter. We'll keep our kids safe, at least in our schools. And if we can close it out to the outside world, then our kids will be safe in school. And that is one big measure that I feel we need.
100%. And when these kids are on the playground, you have 2 teachers out there and dozens of kids. And so, kids are crafty. They want to do their own thing, and they'll figure out how to get through that gate or over that fence. So they need more teachers on duty for sure. And I don't think there would be.
If you don't mind if I interrupt, I wanted to add one thing to that, which is going to frustrate you, because I did make a little comment about it. So there is another child sex offender, that is going to the schools and has been asked repeatedly not to go to the schools, but yet he keeps doing it. And hearsay, supposedly, he just picked up his kids recently at the school with his shirt off and walked right up to the front doors to pick up his kids with his shirt off.
But not hearsay, he was at the school for the kindergarten graduation this past year.
And instead of PD being contacted to come and pick this pedophile up and go back to prison where he belongs, since he keeps trying to, well, possibly offend by breaking his registry several times, they just tell him to leave instead of him going to jail or calling the cops to
Dear God. Dear God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gamer Lover said, what the fuck? Wiz
Yeah.
said, arrest him.
Yeah.
It makes my damn head hurt.
Makes my heart hurt because people.
We just know that it happened on the property, and when there were several victims, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Did you know Jesse McFadden?
We knew him just because our kids were close. So we would communicate, you know, pick up drop-offs, stuff like that, but we weren't like friendly outside of that.
We had a question earlier in chat, and I don't know if you can answer it or not, Justin. Did Ivy ever say anything was strange about Jesse or anything strange about the house?
So that's one thing that kind of baffled us, especially walking through that house and seeing everything. But as I've said, you know, I don't think Hayden's ever stayed in there, but Parker and Ivy, you know, they've stayed the night there several times. And the only thing that they've said to us that was kind of weird is, you know, Riley clearly was most likely being molested by Jesse, we feel, especially with some of the things that kind of inspired with her being pulled out of school. There was a story about her sexting a 21-year-old, and Jesse and Holly were so mad at her that they pulled her out of school, nailed her windows shut, and made it almost impossible for her to get out of the house, and even forced her to sleep on their floor in their bedroom, which those rooms were so small. There was probably only a 2-foot by 6-foot spot for her to sleep in that room. And yeah, I forgot where I was going with that. I'm sorry, but they were completely mistreating. Oh, you were asking if there was stuff in the house, but other than nothing being in the house, they just told us that Jesse would completely mistreat Michael all the time, like more than ass whoopings. They were beatings. And then obviously they told us about Riley, but later on we found out that it wasn't a 21-year-old, that it was actually a 17-year-old that went to the school with her. And it appears as if Jesse was just acting as if he was a jealous boyfriend and didn't want her seeing anybody else. So he pulled her out of school and locked her in the house. And Holly once again condoned that.
Holly was a big part of the problem, and don't forget, she was his pen pal when he was in jail. She knew what he was in jail for. She even took her children to the jail to meet him.
But there was nothing in the house that my kids were worried about other than those two things that we kind of knew were going on. I know Ivy didn't like Jesse. She had always said she didn't like Jesse. She just always wanted to stay away from him. He was mean to the other kids and grounding them for no reason. There was times where Tiffany wasn't grounded, and there was time to like hang out, and we even offered to pick her up, and Jesse would just be rude and mean and shut it down. And I always ask my wife too. I was like, that's so weird that he's like the stepdad, and he's so controlling and like a dictator of that house. And it's like, I would tell my wife, I was like, man, if I was like that with our kids, like, how would you like treat me? And she, of course I wouldn't be here. And it just makes me wonder, like, what Holly was allowing. Like, where was her red line? Was there even a red line? Was she a part of it? And it just, there's so many things that can go through your head that you start to think about, of how there was several barriers for those two to go through for this all to happen the way it did.
I mean, Holly even got the divorce application for Joe and filled it out. It's all in her handwriting in a different state for him to file, because if she would have filed for the divorce here in Oklahoma, she would have had to wait 6 months before being able to marry Jesse. She didn't want to have to wait that time period, so she filed it in another state. So there's a lot of loopholes, and that's one of the laws that we're asking to change that would save so many people, women and children, is that when an marriage application is submitted to the state, that the state would run a background check. They would notify the party entering the union if the other party is a registered sex offender. And if the party entering the union who's not a registered sex offender has children, then the court will automatically deny that marriage application, not allowing this registered sex offender to live with a child.
Yeah, who the hell would think that is, I mean, that is a proper relationship?
Oklahoma.
Yeah, a woman with children marrying a man who's he's an SO. H-Town said, I even told everyone that Jesse picked up the girls by himself and no one believed me. Now, I don't know what chat you were in, H-Town, but we have had many shows about this horrific situation. And we've said over and over and over, it should have never happened. Holly is part of the problem. So I think you have us confused with someone else.
But we had met him and Holly many times.
And were you aware that he had a record, that he'd recently been released from prison and had he was a convicted sex offender?
We had no idea.
We didn't
idea. Find out until we saw like the Amber Alert with his mugshot, and then our phone started blowing up from Facebook and people just sending us everything that they knew about it.
Wait, so this is a small town. You had no idea this man had been recently released from prison after being convicted of rape and was due in court just yesterday for child pornography? You had no idea.
We moved here 2 years ago, and Tiffany, and our daughter were best friends. And I guess if Holly had to say something knowing that he was, then she should have said something. But we didn't really know anything about this guy. We had a read on him that he was a little weird, but we felt comfortable, especially knowing that several of our daughter's friends would go over there all the time and hang out. They would go over there on the weekends. Tiffany would come over here at our house and stay here on the weekends. And it was just back and forth, and we never suspected any kind of maliciousness.
Right. So this was not the first time that the girls at all had spent time at each other's houses, not the first time there had been a sleepover. No warning at all that this was somewhat different. Nothing about this weekend's plans was a little bit different or off to you?
No.
Nothing.
Jesse usually took Tiffany and her friends to the lake all the time. They've been
kayaking.
They've been to that ranch that was brought up, but they didn't. They said that they never even went to the ranch the other day.
Yeah, they'd go roller skating, camping. They were always doing stuff.
So when was the last time you spoke to Ivy?
The last time me and her communicated was Saturday late at night. Me and her were sending Snapchat pictures to each other.
What was she saying to you in those?
And then I got a message. She was just sending me pictures with filters on. And then I sent her one of her dog, and closer to midnight, she's like, "Mom, you're past your bedtime. You got to go to bed." And then I got a message the next morning, Sunday morning, that was from her phone, but I don't believe it was from her anymore, saying that they were going to McAllister and that she would be home later.
We think Jesse wrote
That one.
that one.
Why?
And it probably had already happened by that point.
Because the way Ivy is, she's my best friend. And she is constantly, "Mom, I love you. Okay, Mom, we're going to go to eat. Okay, Mom, we're done eating. We're going to go do this now." She's very, very, she lets me know everything. And this message was just kind of like, "Hey, we're going to McAllister. I'll see you around 5. And I said, "Okay, well, like, let me know if you can come home soon or earlier. It's a school night." Okay. It was just different, but I also didn't think anything of it because it just kind of sounded like maybe we're in a hurry.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com.
Oh. It's just so heartbreaking and so manipulative and maniacal how he was. And I just don't believe for a minute Holly didn't know what was going to go down. Because she was not going to allow him to go to court on Monday. She chose him because she's sick too over the children. She knew exactly what he was about. She was his pit.
And some things that we found out, we know they had some of those what do you call them, hookup apps like Bumble and whatnot. And we were told by an investigator that they actually had several together where they were, reaching out to women to try to do things together. So she was definitely condoning it. And yeah.
So as of right now, do you know where all of these new laws stand? Is it more signatures you need, or is the representative, the senator, are they working on it? Has anyone reached out to Mark Wayne Mullins? Because the other senator, I don't think you can really depend on.
So we had that really, really good, lengthy conversation with Scott Fettgetter, and we really want to respect him. You give respect, you get respect back. So we asked him about the petition, and obviously a petition is to gain the support and from your state representatives. Obviously, we're getting that here in Oklahoma. And not only are we getting it, I feel like we're building a solid team and we have a great movement starting here in Oklahoma. And yes, I asked Scott Fettgetter if it's okay if we have a movement and a march come the time when our bills hit the floor and they start going through session. And he said, yes, of course. And obviously I wanted to be respectful. There's no reason to protest because we're getting heard. And we just want to show our representatives and senators here that this is what the people want in this state. It's time to put an end to this and save our kids. Now, saying that, knowing that we got our support here and hopefully we can get even more support.
So we do have support with Scott Fettgetter and Todd DeGallagher. They will be putting bills forward in February to be voted on, but they're only for District 16. There's representatives across the entire state of Oklahoma. So this petition, getting the signatures, is important to show those senators, those other representatives in the House that you are supportive of this bill, that you want to see this bill pass, because they still have to vote on it. So we can have our district push it really hard, but if there's districts that aren't really hearing from their people that live there, they may or may not vote in favor of it. So we're asking that you still go out and sign the petition to let your representatives know. Just send them an email with a link to the petition. Say, this is important to me. I care about children. You should too. And it's that simple, just sending off an email that quick to their local senator or congressman.
So, and that's where I was getting to. So Beckett, you know, I don't want to step on their toes. We got their attention, but now we're trying to get in the position with this petition to get other people to latch onto it. We need people to do what we're doing here in Okmulgee County and Scott Becketter's district. You know, we've been in constant conversations and contact with him, coming up with the next plans. And we need people in other counties and other states. Now, let's remember, this is a national federal petition. This is something that we're trying to get countrywide. So yes, on a small aspect right now, we started here in Okmulgee County. We got our representatives' attention and they're moving forward with it. Now we just need everybody else in every county, every state to do the same thing. Pick up that mantle. Take our petition as if it was your own. Protect your own kids so you don't have to go to an empty bed like I do every night with Ivy's bed. We want people to start their own teams, their own groups, start getting your own congressmen and senators on board. Let's make this a movement countrywide. We're doing the job here and we're learning as we go. We're gaining experience as we go. You know, this is something that obviously this is a fight I can't put down my sword and shield. This is something that I'm going to hold that sword and shield the rest of my life, because this problem took my daughter, and it's problems that could have not been there. And if we close these loopholes, so we need to make sure we do that now, close these loopholes all around our country, make sure there's a uniform law. And, right now, all these states make their own laws on pedophilia. They don't have a guideline. They don't have the push to comply with state or the Megan's Law and Romeo and Juliet. So it's really just letting our government, our United States government, know nobody's touching our kids no more. And this is how it's got to be. And every state has got to be in compliant and in coordinates with what that night's law is, because each one of those laws, like I said, was a loophole that Jesse used. And I know other sex offenders are using. If we close those loopholes, this problem, those stats, the 1 in 4 female and the 1 in 6 male, those are sex. Every 1 in 4 and every 6 or 1 in 6 males are sexually assaulted as a child in their life. And there's 42 million survivors of sex crimes in the United States. That is absolutely astronomical, and it is a generational turn that is only getting worse. If we are able then, what? Yeah, go ahead.
So what Justin's talking about, that when he says a generational turn, when a sex offender, or I guess when a child is a victim of a sex crime, and then they grow up, not every child this happens to, but many children who have been sexually assaulted as a child end up also becoming a pedophile or sexually assaulting other people in order to try to regain power or control. Jesse was definitely one of the power and control type people. That is the reason why he would rape and do what he would do to women. But if we can stop that generational cycle from continuing to happen, from it going from a child to an adult who offends, and then that new child who was just assaulted again, they turn into an offender. If we can stop that vicious cycle from happening, then we can end pedophilia. So one of the other stats that was online from screenandreveal.org or .com, that stat was that 92.9% of sex crime victims are children. So almost 93% of all sex crimes that are committed against a child. So
against children. And a lot of the problem also, and I don't want to cut you off, is the internet. You know, some children are not guarded. They're not monitored on the internet. And we've had several cases on here, you know, in the last year or so, and I know it's gone on longer than that, where, you know, children are on Snapchat, or one girl, she was in a Discord about Minecraft gaming. And next thing you know, she climbs out the window and she winds up in a shed in North Carolina. Nucky said she owns a pharmacy in Colgate, Oklahoma. She's going to make a flyer with all the info and she's going to post it in the pharmacy. And her mother-in-law is the head of the Republican Party in their district. I'm in District 1, so I'm going to make sure it gets to our district and keep it going.
Yeah, let's do it, everybody. Like I said, this is your petition. Let's protect all the kids.
And she can go to the Knight's Law 2.0 Facebook group to get printouts, also flyers with the information to print out for the store, for other local stores, or to give to that local congressman as well. So,
and I didn't mean to step on anyone's toes and say, does Mark Wayne Mullen know about it? The only reason I said that is if we want it to go national, he's our U.S. senator, and I know how to get a hold of him.
Well, let's do it. I know there's some other of our followers that are actually assisting us and helping us, trying to get in touch with Mark Wayne Mullen and Senator Stephanie Bice, along with some other prominent U.S. Representatives.
But if you have the connection, please help us out and just reach out.
We're all here to help. You came to the right place, because these people in here, they're going to beat a dead horse. They're not going to be done till it's done. Let me tell you what.
That's great. And like I said, you know, we started making T-shirts to help with our movement. You can see it behind us too. A lot of people are wanting these T-shirts because the message is right on it. And then also on the back, we put the QR code, so that way it helps people be able to walk around and actually scan the QR code from the shirt as it is a conversational piece, just wearing it, you know. So it's a great tool to use, and it helps you get signatures. And every shirt we make, we scan our QR codes and make sure they work. So it is a great tool to use. And a lot of the proceeds that we make from it are helping us set up booths and are going to help us when we go to the Capitol come sometime in between February and May, when our bills would be presented. We want to be able to do that march and have hopefully thousands of people with us at the Capitol, letting our representatives and senators know that this is something that will pass. It's not going to not pass. It will pass, and we will get as many of these amendments in as possible. And we need to have a gathering there with us to show our representatives that no matter what, we will keep coming back until all these amendments are in.
Now, when are you going to go to Oklahoma City? When are you going to the Capitol so we can get people together?
So that'll be sometime between February and May. The senator and Scott Petgetter don't know the exact day that the bill will be presented to the floor until we get closer to that time. So for anyone who signs the petition, I'll be sending out an update. It'll be in the form of an email to you, just letting you know when we're made aware of the day and time. We also have been doing some local news station interviews lately about the petition, and those news reporters have also agreed to come back and do more interviews when it comes time for the bill to be voted on, so that way we can get the message out that way as well. But if you've signed the petition, you'll definitely get an email notifying you when we'll be at the Capitol.
But I just want people to know that they're not stepping on our toes when they take the petition. I don't even want to use the word "our" because it's not our petition. This is a petition, a movement for these kids. If anything, if anybody gets to claim this petition, it's those kids. Those kids they need to be.
I think this is all of our petition because we as adults need to step up and tell these kids and send the message to children right now that they're important, they matter, they deserve to be safe, they deserve to be protected. Their voice matters, and we need to listen to them and just let them know again that we hear their voice and that it's okay to come forward once and if this happens to you, that it's not your fault. We need to collectively as adults take this on as our movement together to show children that they are important and they deserve protection.
And listen to the kids too. During this process, I've tried to take some of the time to listen to some of my daughter's friends and how they feel. And sadly, some of them have been through assaults themselves and have their own stories. And we need to give these children a chance to have a voice too. And something that we're trying to work on here in Henryetta is give my daughter's friends, her classmates, the ones that were so touched by this, the chance to have a voice too. And I've been trying to call for the Henryetta schools to create a advocacy group for these kids, especially being a part of this city and what happened here, to be able to use their voice, because it's going to mean so much more coming from these kids, knowing the stats of what happens to their age group, knowing that they could statistically become part of that stat in the future with how bad it's getting. And we want to give these kids a chance to speak for themselves and to get out there and help us with this movement, because it's their lives that we're trying to protect.
100%.
Start groups at your school, start advocacy groups, get out there and help us if you can. And parents, allow them to do it, back them up, be out there with them, save them, help them.
Dakota said, I have my local representatives' emails as well as the city courthouse contacts. I'm going to spread this all across Wyoming. And we have a lot of parents of victims that come on the show a lot. We just did a show about Kyron Horman yesterday, and we do a lot of shows, a lot. And the movement becomes their life. And I can see that from you, Justin. You're not going to stop until this is done.
I will not.
Hang on. She said, okay, extra AF. She's in Louisiana. Said, my grandmother always told me to never accept a no from anyone empowered to give a yes. Now, let me ask you this. I don't know if you can answer it or not. That's what I was going to say a second ago. What frustrated me the most, besides the obvious, was that the investigation was closed so fast. OSBI was not called in because they are a small town. Alana's law is going to change that, because I was telling you about that case, and I'll send you the information on that. She was murdered in her home, in her garage, and they called it a suicide. And so they're making it a law. There's a representative, Kevin Hearn, who took it to the Capitol and said, anytime there is certain situations, we have to be nice here on YouTube, that the OSBI is instantly called in. The OSBI was not instantly called in to what happened to your family. What bothered me, like I said, besides the obvious, was that you can't tell me there aren't other victims of Jesse's out there. Would they not want to investigate that and find out what other children had been to the home?
Let me do the first part. I'll let you do this anymore. So, originally it was Okmulgee County Task Force 1, I believe is what they call themselves. Obviously, when there's huge homicides such as our tragedy, they send that task force out. And Joe Prentice was the leader of that task force, and Smokey Patchen, he's the chief deputy of that task force, I believe. And they originally did call OSBI only as a assistance. So at that point, when OSBI is called in to assist, they can only do what they are told to do from the leading investigative group, which was the task force. So OSBI was there, and they were tasked to fly the drone and to collect the bings from the phones to try to find the location from their phones. And from my understanding, that is the only two things they were asked to do in the investigation. And the rest of the investigation was done by Okmulgee County Sheriff's Office and their task force. At which, as soon as they found the bodies, they called all the investigators over there to deal with the bodies and clean it up and basically pull out. They were done. After they found the bodies and found the killer, there was no story, there was nothing. And so they ended up just pulling out.
Lisa Wilson said, Brooks, what about other adults involved who need to be arrested? And I've always wondered about that too, because you can't tell me the landlord didn't know what was going on there.
Well, let me finish with the other one. So as we continued on for those couple days of being pissed off that Okmulgee County Sheriff's Office did not do their job at all, really. We were calling for another investigation. And as we later have recently found out, we know that Representative Scott Fecketter was making some calls to help us out, I guess. Yeah. And so not only that, obviously the public's call for investigation, another investigation and all that, and along with us going into the house and publicly showing how horrible Okmulgee County Sheriff's Office did their investigation. It kind of, I think, forced the DA's hand to call in OSBI, at which OSBI was called in, I think it was 3 days later or 4 days later.
Yeah, the DA called him in. The DA called him in because you all found evidence.
Yes, exactly. And from that get-go, it's been a lot better. OSBI was out there, I know, for 3 days and I believe 2 nights. They had a command station out there. They investigated the entire property, even sent dive teams down in the ponds. And from my understanding, the only thing that was really found was a woman's flip-flop. But the property owner, he runs construction businesses and trash businesses. So that flip-flop looked old and like it was part of trash. So they suspect that's probably what that was probably from. It could have been blown there or anything. But other than that, they did their investigation. I know they pulled a lot of electronics out of that house. So much as we were told that that's the most evidence they pulled out of the house in the 20 years they've been doing law enforcement. But as far as that, the communication with OSBI, they said the investigation would be going on for probably a couple of years. And I haven't really heard anything really since.
OSBI does fabulous work. They actually really, really do. And I'm glad that it hasn't passed yet that I know of. I could be wrong. The bill hasn't passed yet that when certain crimes happen, they have to be involved. There's too many rural communities in Oklahoma. Now, we can't do anything about the Indian reservations, but there's certain rural communities when a crime happens, they need to bring the big boys in and not mess with it. So my question, if you want to go through this with me, I would love it. If you can't, I understand. But when you went to that house and you went through everything, what were you thinking? What were you feeling?
That's actually a good question because it was different for me. So the first day we went there, our goal was to just find Ivy's light blue Adidas duffel bag that she went there with, and her phone, and a small black backpack purse that she had. And when we gained access into the house, which the property owner allowed us to gain access to the house after after Okmulgee County Sheriff's Office finished their, like, what was it, maybe 8-hour investigation. I went into the house and I was just like a tractor beam. I was just looking for light blue. I was seeing some of the stuff that was in the house, but I just wanted to go inside every single room and see if I could find that bag or a phone or that purse. And I wasn't able to see anything in there. And I know I don't even remember who was all with us. I know my wife was there. We brought a pastor there with us to help pray with us. I know my mother-in-law was there. It's hard to remember a lot of those small details of that, but after walking throughout that whole house, not really seeing what I was hoping to find, I wanted to go out to the field and the hill where the bodies supposedly were, as I was on the phone with Chief or Deputy Chief Smokey Patchen. He was trying to relay to me where the bodies were, so that way I can go there with the pastor and pray and release their souls. Well, obviously I walked around the whole area. I didn't see any blood, no nothing. And then the rest of my family ended up coming up the hill, and some of us prayed and hopefully let those kids know it was okay to go up to heaven.
Oh.
And we ended up going back home, and the talk at home was just the sight of the house and what was in that house. And family members were taking pictures of some of the stuff they were seeing. And, you know, it kind of hit us all at that point, like, wow, all this was left in the house. This can't be right. We don't see this. Like, why would they leave all this? Like, these are parts of the crime that happened. And, you know, here's some of the answers we were wondering that should have been told to us in the beginning, but they weren't because of the failed investigation. And so we came up with the idea of calling one of the reporters that we felt really comfortable with and seeing if we could go back inside the house one more time with her to see if we can look for the objects again. And kind of expose what Okmulgee County Sheriff's Office did not do. Obviously, you're called in there to do an investigation on a 7-person murder-suicide, which is huge. It's 160-something acres of land, and you're telling me they only investigated maybe 1 acre of land and half-assed investigated a house, which we all know they didn't investigate the house at all. But yeah, so we went in there, and as everybody saw, everything that was left inside that house for us to see, that they didn't bag, investigate, do anything with, and everybody saw the way Okmulgee County Sheriff's Office represents themselves with the way that Detective Dawson wanted to talk to me after losing my daughter to a horrific crime, which I still don't know what happened to him. I mean, what he said was absolutely disrespectful and rude. But yeah, that's how that house went, I guess.
But I guess he's not there anymore. Detective Dawson's not there anymore. Is it because he was exposed on News Nation, or did he go to another department? And which reporter did you feel comfortable with? Because I know Erin Christie, she really, really worked hard on it. Abigail Dye did as well, but now she's in Houston. So she moved from Fox 23 down to a Houston affiliate.
Wait, what was your first question? Okay, yeah. So the reporter that we were really feeling confident with, that really touched us personally because of her personal views on it, was Kaylee Alivas with K4 News.
Okay.
Yeah, she was, and she still is connected to her family, keeps in touch with us, and yeah, she's an amazing reporter and helped us out tremendously. As far as Erin Christie, I'll be open and honest about Erin Christie. You know, she's probably a wonderful person, wonderful lady, great reporter. But I feel she aligned herself with her own family in the beginning, and there was a lot of misinformation that was being pushed out by the wrong side of this incident and that family. I guess we're all open about it. Holly's family lied about a lot of things.
Yeah.
And that's why OSBI had to write a statement about misinformation and lying to media and telling the wrong stories and stuff. They were the main reason why that went out, because Lynn Wyatt could not stop lying about certain things of the investigation that were completely untrue.
Yeah, Holly's family did a lot of stuff, and one thing that was covered up is Holly's mother's affiliation with the Branch Davidians. And I actually tweeted that to Erin Christie, and she didn't do anything with it. Hashtag stand with Justin. If you guys don't mind lighting the chat up, it's on the screen. And let's see if you can get through this, Justin, then we will. If not, I understand.
I'm doing.
They're about to take you on a tour through this home, and it is very, very uncomfortable, but you will learn a lot about this Jesse McFadden and what he may have done before killing those kids and his wife. Take a look.
Phone or phone case with like the screen ghost face on the back. Okay. I don't know.
There's a phone.
No, I don't care about the road. Yeah, those are Tiffany skates.
Tiffany's bad print is the cow print. And the cow slippers over here. Spells. Inner witch. Oh my God. What? On the floor over there.
This is a huge.
This is the room. Do you remember when they said that they were making Riley sleep on their bedroom floor? where was she sleeping at? There is no room on that floor. And then here, come over here and here, I want to.
Give me something to grab.
Take a picture. Take pictures.
It's on video.
That's them.
It's on-
Hey, that's them.
Okay.
Here, use this sack. Don't keep locked there.
No, those locks?
That's evidence too.
So is those
You
drugs.
just locked us.
Is
That's
that
it.
hers?
Yep. Okay. Hold on.
Call the sheriff.
Yep.
Don't touch them. Don't move them.
Yep. Let's.
Okay. Walk us through this, Justin. And if it's too hard, I totally understand. We have a hashtag going right now. Stand with Justin.
What part do you want me to explain?
Were you shocked? Were you mad? Were you distraught? Were you just not believing what was in front of your eyes?
I still can't believe it. Still to this day, I have conversations with like Tiffany and my wife, and it all seems like one day still, and you hope that you just wake up and you're going back to work and Ivy's coming home the next day. But as far as going through that house that second day, I was angry. I was frustrated. You start to kind of piece together what those kids went through, especially my daughter and Brittany. They had to have gone through hell. And that's the understatement. But for those other kids to be locked up and incapable of helping to do anything, and that's the other thing that doesn't make sense to me. Jesse was a smaller guy than me, and I'm 5'10", 210 pounds, and Jesse was maybe 5'7", under 200 pounds, and he controlled all 6 of those people, one being an adult and one being a young adult male. It doesn't make any sense to me. But anyways, going back to that day, I was just, I was distraught. I was frustrated. I didn't understand it. And I don't think, when you're grieving, every emotion that you can think of goes through your mind and your body, and just sometimes you can be sad, sometimes you can be upset, confused. But for me, and I think this is the difference between me and my wife, I'm more anger driven, is where she will lay in bed and sulk and cry, and we're two different people. But I think with the way we grieve, it works perfect for each other, because she's doing all the crying for me, and it's great, and I'm doing all the with Tiffany's help, all the anger, the momentum side of things, trying to change the laws, and it's working out great for us. And I think for me, most of the anger really started with Detective Dawson. After he said what he said, I knew that there had to be changes. There had to be a way to make this right. And it was a failure on everybody's part. And it needs to be corrected. It needs to be corrected in all aspects: law enforcement, state laws, parents need to be more vigilant and understanding. I'll tell you right now, none of my kids will probably ever stay the night at anybody's house ever again, because of how bad this world's getting. But I'll tell you right now, the day that these laws are enacted and I know my kids are safer, maybe I'll re-explore that. But until then, you have to take the steps to protect your own kids, because the states and our government, our United States government, if they don't pass this law, then they just prove to themselves that they don't care about our future and our kids.
100% agree.
Let's back out.
That's good.
Okay. I'm calling.
Smokey.
Are you done looking?
No.
No, I'm not done looking, but that's evidence.
Okay.
He used our daughter's cell phone.
And whatever's behind that.
Yep. Okay.
And they're not concerned about looking anywhere else.
This house needs to be stripped. Oh my God. Okay. Do me a favor.
No, that's what I was telling you.
But we touched everything today because we had permission from the sheriff. But we didn't touch the phones. But I was not in the state when this happened, so.
Okay, you had permission from the sheriff to go in there. Excuse me, I'm getting a raspy voice. I need to get some water. Why did the landlord not want law enforcement in the home? And, you know, he's got a very sketchy past as well.
Right now, I just don't want to comment on the property owner. I'll
Okay.
leave that alone.
Okay, I understand. And you shouldn't.
So we're getting pictures of all this, honey. This man was a freaking monster. And his wife was too.
This one's my daughter's. I want to know what else is up here and in here. I think there's more. There's computers.
Some of these tablets.
You know.
Well, did you notice the ring?
The ring?
See that ring? The wedding ring right there.
Oh, I thought you were saying camera. God, that would have been great.
Is this on video?
Yeah, I'm just getting all the stuff up there.
Well, I mean, I didn't say too much of it.
Yeah?
Yeah, but there's a big on the shade.
But that's a weapon. So
And it's in here with all this sexual paraphernalia.
And then those were right there. They obviously didn't look too hard.
No.
Look, is that another phone or what is that? Look, hey, that one's still on. That computer, whatever that tablet thing is.
Have you ever thought that possibly some of that stuff was left by members of law enforcement and it wasn't in plain sight before?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know that's been a big question since everyone saw this.
Yeah, not at all. I'll tell you, just speculation and what I feel. The law enforcement went into that house, probably looked around as another team was going out to the fields, and they probably immediately found the bodies, as one is right at the end of that dirt road on the property. And they called off the search of the house for everybody to come out to the property and search. And they did, and just never went back to the house because they didn't care.
No, they had it tied up. And It really upset me as a born and bred Okie that they didn't want to look any further to find out what other children have been abused or what other adults are involved in his ring. And trust me, there's others.
Yeah.
People like Jesse only know people like Jesse. That's the reason him and Holly got together.
And as far as, counties, this isn't the only county that is this bad. The surrounding counties here, especially most of all eastern Oklahoma, a lot of them don't have the funding, the manpower, or anything to help them do their job. And I think a lot of the towns and county sheriff's office just need to be completely reformed. And a lot of the leaders that are in position now need to resign. And we need new laws, stronger laws, along with stronger and newer leadership in there to push these laws, because these law enforcement agencies, these sheriff's offices in eastern Oklahoma, they're just so set in their ways that we're going to have to call for the change and possibly resignations.
And that's what I'm talking about, because a few weeks ago, we were going over the case of Laura Bible and Ashley Freeman. We had Lorene Bible on, and she talked about, I mean, in all the years, she's been trying to find out what happened to her daughter and her daughter's best friend. She had it tracked down to Kansas. She knew what was going on. She had to march in and see Matthew Ballard in Rogers County and say, are you going to do anything about this? And you guys are a lot alike. We can get everyone together and you can talk, because you're taking the bull by the horns and you're saying, no, we're going to go to Oklahoma City.
Yeah. And that's the one thing that's been so frustrating, as, Sounds of Freedom came out, a couple of these songs start coming out, and there's momentum behind this movement that we're doing and trying to change these laws. But that's the confusing thing about all these, like the movie, The Sound of Freedom, and some of these songs, and our incident that happened, and the border crisis of everything that's going on, and we have this momentum. But all these people, like these movie producers, why, if it's so serious to them, why didn't they create a law or a petition to create a law? Why, like, all these people are sitting here making money off of it, this problem, and saying the right things. Oh, hey, we need to make a change. We need to do this. We need to do that. But yet I don't see any of them doing what we're doing to try to actually make change. So if people love that movie so much, people love these songs that are coming out, all these people wanting to end pedophilia, well, jump on board. Let's actually do it, because this right here is the way to actually do it. Not making millions off a movie or songs. It's putting pen to paper and using your voice to try to change this country for the better and save these kids. I don't need to make
because half of them are sick twists too, and they get off on it.
Yeah. So I'll tell you right now, if you like that movie, you like these songs that are coming out, and you actually want to make a difference and change and protect our kids, look, you don't need to put me in front of cameras making movies or none of that. You can put me in front of a camera, I'll use my voice, and I'll tell you right now, this is how you make change. This is how you do it. You go to Congress, you go to your legislators, and you start drafting bills to protect these kids. And they want a movement. This is how it begins. So let's do it together. Let's go to the capitals. Let's go to the United States Capitol. Let's tell Joe Biden we're ready. We're serious.
Well, look at, what Vanessa Gillen's family did. They went to Washington, D.C. and knocked on door after door after door after door. They got a hold of a couple of U.S. senators to change what was going on at Fort Hood. You're doing the same thing, and we're here with you.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I appreciate both you and Tiffany coming on here today. I know it's been very hard for you, Justin, very hard for you, Tiffany. Give our prayers to Ashley, because y'all are doing the right thing. It's not an easy thing. And like I said to you when we were going back and forth the other day, I do this show every day, and I see so many parents and family members that just accept it and move on with their lives, and they don't make a change. But you're making a change. Everybody, everyone that's in here, please. And I never ask for this. You know me, and I don't. Sign the petition, share the petition, and get everyone to sign it. I will, or I wouldn't ask you to. You guys know other creators on YouTube? Have them share it as well.
And have them reach out to us. And anybody on this platform, if you want to reach out to us, ask us how you can help. Now, we may not have all the answers. I was regular Joe Schmo, middle-class American, going to work every day, and the devil hit my door. And now my life is changing. We're learning as we go, and we can give you pointers here and there, but this is a process that we're gaining the experience, so we can share the experience as we go and we can help you out. But it's really not hard. You just need a heart and you need a voice and you need to speak what comes from that heart. A lot of people think the same way you do.
And the nice thing about this petition is that there are laws that can be enacted or asked for in any state, not just in the state of Oklahoma. So you don't even have to try to draft the laws yourself in your own state. You just have to read our laws, take those laws to your senator. And that's what Justin's talking about. Take this mantle as your own. We don't need to be the voice going to every single senator across each state, because I live in Arizona. I need to be responsible for that state. Justin lives in Oklahoma. He's taking on that mantle, but we're asking that other people of different states take up that mantle, that we are putting out the framework for you to be able to do that in a more easy way. Just take the petition, sign it, share it with your local senator, local House of Representative, to get that word across and get them on board with what we're trying to do and what you want in your local community for your children.
Well, it's over 3,500 now. I just checked.
Awesome.
We got something done today, and I want to say thank you so much to you, Justin. Thank you so much to you, Tiffany. And we're going to keep this fight going.
Yeah, well, let's do this again. If you don't mind, in a few weeks or a month, whenever you're ready, I'm ready.
This platform is open to you guys anytime. Anything you want to come on, it doesn't have to be at 9 a.m. We'll make it work.
I just want to make sure that I'm keeping everybody updated kind of on what we're doing. Obviously, we're sharing everything on our Facebook. I can say follow the Knight's Law. You can add me on Facebook. I'm trying to add people who I can.
If you have the TikTok, I don't. So that is a platform that I think if you're already on it could really reach hundreds of thousands of people very quickly. So if you are watching this and you do have a TikTok, if you can make a quick video about it and tag the link to the petition and that video and just say your piece on it, like how you feel about that, and get people's attention by sharing your thoughts and your feelings on this matter, and give them the petition so they can share theirs.
I have a TikTok. I used it for Athena Brownfield when she was murdered in Oklahoma, but since our State Department said it's not safe, I just don't use it. I just don't.
Well, we know it's a good way to get word out, and I got my family pressuring me to try to learn it and get me on it. So I'm going to try to figure it out, but I'm not a TikToker either. So, but we know a lot of our followers are, and if they want to help us out and spread that message and the law on TikTok and get that going, it's your petition too. Let's do it together.
And I love how you say that. It's your petition too. I've seen so many people in here today saying, I'm doing this for my children. I'm doing this for my grandchildren. I'm doing this for my future grandchildren. And it's time. It's time for us to rise up and say, we're not taking this anymore. We might pass by the gas station and say, oh, the price of fuel went up, or oh, shit, the price of eggs went up. But our children, that's a big no-no. Again, thank you to you, Justin. Thank you to you, Tiffany, because you guys didn't take this laying down. You're going after him. Give our best wishes to Ashley, and anytime you want, and I mean it, anytime. Now, I can't promise you after 6 o'clock because I'm like a golden girl. I go to sleep early, as you know. This platform is open to you. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. We will see you on the next one. Snow said time for changes. And you guys, I tell you what, doesn't matter what's going on out there on the YouTube streets. You're not here for drama. You're here for change, and you're here for awareness. You're here for advocacy. That's why you guys are the best members, moderators, chat, and community on YouTube. And I can't tell you how much I love each and every one of you. You guys are the absolute best.
Thank you.